All right, Kraken fans, let's talk about how our team squandered probably the best performance that we've seen from Joey Daccord, at least yet this season.
You are Locked On Kraken, your daily podcast on the Seattle Kraken, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, what do you say, Seattle hockey fans? Welcome to another episode of Locked On Kraken, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We bring you your favorite team every single day. My name is Erica L. Ayala. I am your host of Locked On Kraken, have been since the very beginning. Want to let you know today's episode of Locked On Kraken brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use promo code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. And Game Time might be something you want to check out because the Seattle Kraken finished up their homestand, didn't get the 7 points I had predicted or I was hoping that they would get. Joey Daccord did start in the last 2 games. The Seattle Kraken dropped their last 3 games. And no, those things are not on the same side of the Seattle Kraken spectrum. So let's talk about it. In this game, if we look at the post-game instant analysis, both goaltenders in this game against the Carolina Hurricanes, both goaltenders are credited with a quality start. Joey Daccord saw a lot more goals than Frederik Andersen for the Carolina Hurricanes. In fact, Joey Daccord was one of the 3 stars of the game, along with Drury and McCann, according to NHL.com. His goals against average, Joey Daccord right now is 3.04, save percentage 921 in this game against the Carolina Hurricanes. Again, looking at the post-game analysis, 35, good number, of 35 saves out of 38 shots on goal, 18 of 19 for Andersen. And, you know, I hope that we're not going to fall into the trap under Disco Dan of getting great goaltending performances and not getting great offense. Here's what Dan Bylsma had to say about Joey Daccord after the game against Carolina.
Standing, yeah, it was probably, the result and the numbers maybe not say that, but it was his best game so far this year.
And so, do you agree? Was this the best performance we've seen from Joey Daccord? I think you're hard-pressed to disagree with what Dan Bylsma is saying. Again, considered a quality start. So we're going to break down in this episode what exactly went wrong. We're going to hear more from Dan Bylsma. We're going to hear from Joey Daccord and Jared McCann in the locker room. But, spoiler alert, it had a lot to do with the lack of offensive chances from the Seattle Kraken. If we go back to the instant analysis, Allison Lucan, of course, always giving us our data-driven instant analysis after every Seattle Kraken game. There were a lot of things that stand out. Shots on goal, 39-19. Can you guess? Can you guess who had 39 and who had 19? That is a 20-shot difference. 20 more opportunities generated by the Carolina Hurricanes as compared to the Seattle Kraken. Other things that stand out to me, and again, you're going to hear from some of our members of the Kraken, including Dan Bylsma, on these topics. The Carolina Hurricanes won the puck in the offensive zone battle, 44% to 30%. High danger chances, 6 for the Carolina Hurricanes, 3 for the Kraken. Shot attempts overall, 68 to 19. Now, if the shots on goal and the shot attempts are the same for the Kraken, I guess you can say at least we're being accurate, but we're not getting past anyone. In this case, Carolina Hurricanes backstopped by Andersen. I don't think I mentioned it, but the final score was 4-1 in favor of the Hurricanes. Entry denials, 46% for Carolina, 39% for the Kraken. Zone exits, 66 for the Kraken, 71% for the Carolina Hurricanes. And the puck battle wins. And you're going to hear again from Dan Bylsma. We're going to listen to a clip in a little bit here. He talked a lot about the puck battle wins. Yes, again, That is a category that the Carolina Hurricanes won 59% to 41%. You know how I feel about puck battles if you're one of our everydayers or OGers, because some of these things are effort. And so is it time to worry? We're going to talk about that in the next segment. I just want to break down the stats and facts. Power play, shot attempts 11 for the Seattle Kraken, 25 for the Carolina Hurricanes. Now, in fairness, they had more power play opportunities. That means the Seattle Kraken in the box. Again, Dan Bylsma alludes to that a little bit. We'll talk about it in the next segment. 3 power play chances, goose egg for the Kraken, 1 of 6 for the Hurricanes. So we're also going to talk about some good things, the effort and the hustle that's on the good side. And the penalty kill is one of those areas. Shot quality sub 1% for the Seattle Kraken, 1.8, or the tally is the rating is 1.8 for the Hurricanes. Shots on goal, kind of mentioned that. This is all power play stuff. So shots on goal, 18 shots on goal on the power play. Joey Daccord only let 1 slide by. 5 shots on goal on the power play, 3 power play opportunities, 5 shots on goal between those 3 power play opportunities. Shot attempts 11 for the Seattle Kraken, 25 for the Carolina Hurricanes. So basically, if you can't figure out where I'm coming from, at some point, the Seattle Kraken need to throw away the expectation of the perfect shot and start getting more shots, start generating more chances. And a part of that is not just being direct, although we are going to talk today, because I expect to have a little bit of a deeper dive into Matty Beniers, also coming up today, Monday, October 28th, because I appear on today's episode of Locked On NHL, and the amazing Gil Martin asking, hey, what's going on with the Seattle Kraken? So we're going to do a little bit of a deeper dive into Matty Beniers and that top line, Matty Beniers, with McCann and Eberle. By far have been our biggest offensive threats. And we're going to talk about that. Again, talked about it a little bit with Gil, but I'll have another episode for you today where we break all of that down. So these are the stats. Now we're going to give some context to this because that is important. So let's hear a few clips from Dan Bylsma. We'll hear a little bit more also from Joey Daccord and Jared McCann. As I mentioned, all of them were made available to media either in the locker room or on the dais in the case of Dan Bylsma. But, we need to break this down. I think we got to talk about it. Am I upset? Am I concerned? We're going to talk about that and more coming up. Here is more from Postgame.
I mean, they're a good team. They play right on top of you the whole night. There's no time and space out there. I mean, I'm sure, anyone out here or anyone on our team would tell you there wasn't much time and space for us. And, they got to their game, quicker than we did and imposed their will on us. But I thought the guys fought really hard. We just competed, and at the end of the day, it wasn't enough tonight. But I was proud of our group for the way we battled. I mean, some of the shot blocks tonight, some of the compete and fight that I saw from our guys was really impressive. And just to battle the way we did in the third period to get it within a goal, and I just got a lot of respect for the guys in this room. I think the fight that we showed, last game coming back down 3-1 in the third, tonight down 2-1 in the third, had chances to tie it right after we scored. Tolvey had a chance, you know what I mean? I think it's impressive the resilience our group has shown so far, and I think we're going to continue to fight and take a lot of positives from this trip. We've had big wins, great effort against Calgary, Philadelphia. And I think we're going to just keep moving forward, keep putting one foot in front of the other. We're still getting used to Dan's systems and the way he wants to play, and I think that's going to take some time. And at the end of the day, I think we just need to keep fighting. And I thought we did that tonight, and I was proud of our group for that.
So that was Joey Daccord that you just heard from. You hear him talking about so many things that, again, we're going to get into on today's episode. I really liked that he's standing up for his team. He liked the performance. He also mentions, though, that this is a team that's getting used to the Disco Dan era. And that, in part, is a part of what we're seeing. So, again, is it time to worry about the Seattle Kraken in this season? We'll get into that and more on today's episode of Locked On Kraken. Today's episode of Locked On Kraken brought to you by our friends at Prize Picks. Now, I think the cool thing about Prize Picks is that you have over 10 million members, billions of dollars awarded winnings, and Prize Picks is doing all of this because they've made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. All you have to do is pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win 100 times your cash. And so if we take a look at Prize Picks right now, of course, the Seattle Kraken, we won't see any of that for them on Prize Picks, at least not for today, because they don't have a game today. But a lot of you know I'm a huge baseball fan. I'm a Mets fan, so I'm kind of loving where the World Series is right now. But if you take a look, they have these, and it's very apropos, it's spooky season, but you can check out the dashboard here. And that 100X that I was just talking about, Prize Picks has these little emojis that they use, or little emojicons that they have, so you know what might be the hot deal. These indicate non-standard payouts up to 100X. So are you going to take more or less for Juan Soto hitting 1.5 hits, runs, and RBIs, all 3 combined? Are you going to take more than 1.5 stolen bases for Freddie Freeman? Are you going to take more or less on Shohei Ohtani stolen bases? Now that one's a little tricky, because if you watched game 2, Shohei got injured. So that's kind of what I love about Prize Picks is, if you're keeping an eye on your favorite team, your favorite league, you get to decide. You are just betting and going up against what the hypothetical is, the over under, because Prize Picks also invented a flex play, which means you can still cash out if your lineup isn't perfect. You can double your money even if one of your picks doesn't hit. And I mentioned Shohei Ohtani. This is one of the only daily fantasy platforms with an injury insurance policies. Your lineup stays in play even if one of your players gets injured. If your player leaves in the first half and doesn't return, Prize Picks keeps your lineup live. So for anyone who bet on Shohei, I'm sure you appreciated that. So sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Prize Picks also offers weekly promotions that can lead to big payouts like Taco Tuesday. Every Tuesday, Prize Pick discounts select players' projections up to 25% to provide even more value for your lineup. Again, download the app today and use promo code LOCKED on NHL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. And whether you are keeping in tabs on the World Series, the NBA, WNBA, sadly over, that's right, New York Liberty are the champs. You can do all of that on Prize Picks. Thanks as always for making Locked On Kraken a part of your daily destination. You are listening, hopefully, to us as your first listen of the day. Make sure you go listen to Locked On NHL. Make it your second, your third, whatever listen of the day. And guess what? You'll get more Kraken news because I joined Gil Martin on the Monday episode of Locked On Kraken, on Locked On NHL. We will have a deeper dive into some of what I talked about with Gil Martin on another episode of Locked On Kraken. So, is it time to worry? And spoiler alert, this is kind of the conversation that Gil and I were having. I'm going to do a deeper dive, especially into what I was talking about with regard to Matty Beniers, basically our top line with Jared McCann and Jordan Eberle. But I want to stay with this Carolina game because in a lot of ways, this is a really great playing ground for talking about the things we like about the Seattle Kraken and talking about the things that, at least right now, need to improve and probably need to improve pretty quickly. And you heard Joey Daccord talk about how he liked the fight. I've been showing you the game score, and I've been saying, hey, let's keep an eye on Jamie Alexiak. Game score is telling me that he is cutting it up. And if you listen to the show, I've not always been a big fan of Jamie's game, but I do feel that under the Disco Dan era, we have seen Jamie Alexiak really step it up, had a huge block. We're going to hear, he had a huge block in this game, and you've heard it alluded to before. You'll hear it again in some of the clips that I have prepared for you today. But those are the good plays that we're seeing from the Seattle Kraken. Again, the penalty kill. I talked about it in the first segment. It was one of the highlights, 16, just above 16% on the power play, 1 of 6 for the Carolina Hurricanes. So being able to sell out the body, as they say, really do whatever it takes when the back is against the wall is a little bit of what we're seeing from the Seattle Kraken team. So I like the resilience. That being said, the slow starts, the having to respond instead of, as Dan Bylsma has told us before, and we've talked about on the show, enforcing their will early on the game, we're seeing the Seattle Kraken still react and respond to what's being given to them. All gas, no brakes for this Hurricanes team. And we're going to hear Disco Dan talk a little bit about what was the expectation going into this game versus what happened, and if there was any disappointment. And I think it was an interesting question. Dan Bylsma, I love when he takes a moment to think about how he's going to respond. It's not that comparative to what we've seen in press conferences from Dave Haxtell. Dave will be very short. He never defies his players, as I like to say. He'll keep things short, especially if he feels it's maybe an unfair characterization or he flat out doesn't want to answer the question. With Disco Dan, my interpretation is he has these pauses. I edited most of them out, but you'll see, and maybe I'll keep some of them in as little Easter eggs for you. But he has these pauses, and it's a man who knows what he wants to say, but is conscious, in my opinion. It's a man who knows what he wants to say, but is conscious of the audience and wants to be thoughtful in his response, while also being truthful. I think he's very forthcoming with a lot of things, including, is he going to say that he was disappointed in the team performance? I don't know that he goes all the way there, but there are things that he will say need to improve, and he will highlight things, sometimes whether he's asked or not. And there are some particulars in this game, including the 50-50 puck battles. I gave you the stats from Allison Lucan's piece in the instant analysis that you can find on the Kraken website, kraken.com/NHL. I think that's right? Yeah, NHL.com/Kraken. And so there is some frustration, I think, from Dan Bylsma, because there's certain things, not just in this game against Carolina, although he details them, and I love it, because you're going to hear him give an explanation of what I'm talking about right now. But there is a little bit of a frustration because these are some of the things that are massive momentum shifters and that also come down to hustle, heart, grit, sandpaper. And I get the sense that Dan wants to win those kind of battles every single time. And he can accept a loss when those boxes are ticked. Now, if those boxes aren't ticked, my interpretation of Dan, whether it's a win or a loss, is that he's going to be a little bit more fired up and agitated, and will say so. So I actually want to play some clips from Jared McCann. He is one of those players, again, in the deeper dive that I'm going to do in another episode that should come out Monday, either Monday or Tuesday. He's one of the players offensively that we've seen step up, and we have to have a conversation about the offense. But here's Jared McCann talking about Joey Daccord, who, again, he had a great game. Dan Bylsma, you heard him say, might have been his best game of the season. So how and why did the Kraken squander this opportunity? First, let's hear Jared talk about Joey Dax, and then we'll get a little bit more into what the Seattle Kraken need to do and what they are saying they need to do to improve, especially knowing there's a road trip coming up.
Joey did a good job keeping you guys close for most of that game.
He did, yeah. He did a great job tonight. But as a team, we need to figure it out here, and we need to play as one unit for 60 minutes.
have to play as one unit for 60 minutes. And we're going to hear more from Jared McCann. We're going to hear Dan Bylsma talk about the neutral zone action. Teams that play well in the neutral zone give the Seattle Kraken fits. That's kind of historically, we're seeing it a little bit here. And what are you doing if you're in the neutral zone that makes things so tough? You are playing tough. You are playing with grit. And that's, again, what Dan wants to see in this Kraken team. But also it means that if you're a team that's trying to play fast and a team is bogging you down in the neutral zone, that they are cutting off from a defensive perspective, they are cutting off your transition. And the Seattle Kraken need to have a transition game that includes exits, that includes entries, that includes being able to pass the puck ahead, stretch passes, all of those things are critical to a team that wants to play fast. But the only way you can play that way is if you play hard along the boards. Here's what Dan Bylsma had to say with respect to how Carolina was able to disrupt what the Kraken are looking to do.
It was the neutral zone, but also them in the offensive zone, us breaking the puck out. They're fully expected it to be a confrontational game in those areas, and you have to be able to execute and make a play and compete in those areas to have success. And there was evident really in a lot of different ways, in a number of different ways. You're talking about the first period. There's a wall battle at the penalty boxes that, if we win the battle, Chandler's getting the puck in full stride and full speed, and you're going to have an opportunity. There's, the second period, when they had that, Rig blocked the shot and he's hobbling in the corner. It's a wall play with Andre on the wall there, that if you make the play, if you execute it, if you win the puck battle, we're going to get a 2-on-1, and that's the kind of the game that you're presented with Carolina every time you play them. They're coming with a lot of heat. They come in with D down the wall. They're going to be confrontational on the puck, and if you can execute and make those plays, you're going to get opportunities. And we didn't make very many of them tonight.
So there you go. The importance of puck battles. And this is something that I've wanted to see from the Seattle Kraken throughout their time in the NHL. So how do we bounce back? How do we bounce back from this? What are the things that we can learn? Again, using this Carolina Hurricanes game as, I don't know if you want to call it a case study. I mean, I'm a poli-sci major, so case study is kind of how I would, it's not really a case study. Okay, I'm nerding out a little. I apologize. Okay. What I want to do is use this as an example to illuminate some of what we've seen from the Seattle Kraken, and also some of the things that hopefully we can amend on the road. And we're going to hear Dan Bylsma talk about how he approaches road games, and why perhaps he's not completely comfortable saying that on the road is where you fix some of your shortcomings. And I think that's a really interesting comment that I want to keep eyes on. So let's talk about that and more coming up on today's episode of Locked On Kraken. Get ready to tackle NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers can bet $5, get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. And, of course, us here at the Locked On Podcast Network. Don't love losing 3 in a row. Don't love wasting what, again, Bylsma called the best performance we've seen from Joey Daccord. Also, I mentioned it at the top of the show, but want to reiterate because I'm curious how we're going to see this play out. Now, the road is, a little different because you have to manage fatigue a little bit differently than when you're at home. But Joey Dac's getting 2 starts in a row. Joey Dac's getting 2 starts in a row. Okay. We knew this was going to be a tandem. We're wondering when we would see Dan Bylsma just kind of focus on one goaltender. Are we there yet? We might be. And I'm going to keep an eye on that. I don't think we know the answer just yet, especially because, again, as I said, the Seattle Kraken have a road series or a road stretch coming up here. So we're at the end of October. For those watching on YouTube, you can see the full schedule on the screen. So we have Montreal and Toronto this week. And Ottawa, I guess, because that will be on Saturday. But technically, that's already November. My goodness, things going by. So this week, Montreal, Toronto, and Ottawa. Next week, we have Boston and Colorado again. That's the one I'm circling on my calendar, is Colorado again. Then we return home to take on the Vegas Golden Knights. Not going to be a cakewalk. Not going to be easy. And how are the Kraken going to bounce back? Jared McCann had some thoughts on what he'd like to see from the team. We're also, as I mentioned, going to hear what Disco Dan thinks about not wanting to have to use the road to kind of rally the troops. But what does it look like when you have to make adjustments? How do you make those adjustments on the road? So let's hear from the guys. And then again, if you want to listen to a deeper dive on what I talk about with Gil Martin, specifically when it comes to Matty Beniers, which of course will include Jordan Eberle and Jared McCann, stick around either later today or tomorrow. We'll have an extra episode where I dive into that a little bit more.
I'm disappointed in how it went, but we weren't surprised. When you play a team like this, you have to execute and you have to compete under pressure. All over the ice, defensively, and then when you get a chance, your first execution has to be quick and fast and aggressive with your. And I think too many times tonight we held on to the puck, were careless with our execution when we had the opportunities, especially in the first period, to make those plays. Yeah, I thought, 2 nights ago, Matty and Canner and Ebbs were our best line, and we didn't have a lot in this game, but they probably had the most, and that came in the form of the PK. Canner had the breakaway, that opportunity, and then like you're going to get it against Carolina. We play good D zone, block a shot, and they're in a full press, and we get a great play up to him to get that goal. But it's great to see that he's got that many goals and that many points. He's on a enormous pace, but we gotta start getting it from other areas and other people.
It's when that happens, you just gotta win your puck battles, win your one-on-ones, and get chances. We didn't do enough of that tonight. Yeah, it's obviously pretty frustrating. But there were moments where we kind of figured it out, but then we just went back to the way we started, so it was a little bit frustrating.
Well, I don't ever like to think you need to go on the road to play good hockey, good simple hockey, but sometimes when you get on the road as a group, we have 5 games ahead of us. It's a time to dig in and play a little more, I don't want to say simple, but play a little more direct and play a little bit more, which really plays into our favor. So, we saw that in our road trip, Minnesota and the Dallas and Nashville trip. We did a good job of that, and we got 5 games here on this swing to really kind of cement our game and how we want to play.
5 games on the road to cement how we want to play. So is it time to worry? I don't think so. definitely flagging some things. You heard Jared McCann say, we got to get the offense going. You heard Dan Bylsma in that clip allude to the fact that top line, Eberle, Beniers, and McCann has been the best, and it's not enough. We've also seen early in the year, as we've seen throughout the Seattle Kraken's short history, that at times the quote-unquote fourth line has been our best line. But that's not enough in and of itself. Again, go listen to Locked On NHL because Gil and I allude to some of the things that I'm keeping an eye on. Not fully concerned right now. And there are some players that we need to get activated. And part of the way that we're going to get them activated, Chandler Stevenson, Andre Burakovsky, the maestro, Oliver Bjorkstrand. These are kind of more finesse players. They play with speed. And so the Seattle Kraken as a team need to make sure they're winning the puck battles. Yes, I am clapping with my hands to emphasize this point. If this team wants to play fast, everyone has to do what I always say and commit to that team defense so they can spring their clinical shooters, so they can spring their most creative offensive players. And at least right now, we're not seeing that with consistency. And when we do, it will make all the difference. 5 games to get back to Kraken hockey, baby. And at least for the next 5, what Dan Bylsma wants to see this team do is keep it simple. Mwah. Keep it simple, silly. And I am all about that. Again, either today or tomorrow, I'm going to have a bonus episode because I really want to dive deeper into so much conversation about Matty Beniers in the offseason. If he had a bust of a year, is he a bust of a player? Well, early returns indicate that maybe don't worry about it, sweetheart. Don't worry about it, sweetheart. I want to talk about that. We'll have more for you. So stay locked on Kraken. Until then, be kind to yourself. Be kind to one another. Hold fast, stay true, and let's go Kraken. I'll catch you on the next episode. Peace out, everybody.